And it is hard to argue with the payoff line of life inspired when you're sitting somewhere like this. If you were with us a little earlier on today for the global launch of the brand new Boschendal Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon, well then welcome back. If you weren't, then welcome for the first time today to Boschendal, the sprawling wine estate in the heart of the winelands, where you find not just me, but one of the more gifted winemakers in a country that is admittedly stocked full of them, and a winemaker who hasn't stopped smiling, because as we welcome you to Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick n Pay in a special edition today from Boschendal, I'm not sure in the time that we've known each other, Jacques, I've ever seen you quite so happy, because this has been a good day for you and for Boschendal.
I said, Dan, it's been absolutely amazing. It's just, I can't stop smiling because it's a super awesome wine that we're launching and we're putting forward to you guys to taste and to drink and to enjoy. Like I said, like I told you previously, I've been keeping this a secret for quite some time, and it's just awesome just to put it out there. So yeah, no, awesome, and it's really nice being back on the show. Twice in one day, eh? It's getting better.
New record. So if you weren't here earlier, and we had a show that went out live on both the Dan Really Likes Wine platforms and the Boschendal platforms to an audience right around the world, which was fantastic. What we've done today is showcase for the very first time a Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon from a wine estate that is not actually in Stellenbosch. So what Jacques has done, he's waited until a wine estate has all been fast asleep and gone and stolen all of their grapes and brought them through to make his own wine and pulled off something rather special. And it's a really interesting story, because Boschendal wine is not something that many people take needs a whole lot of improvement. You've delivered really good wine consistently over some time now, and as Greg Sherwood said on our show earlier on today, you're a winemaker he holds in great esteem, as do many, and yet you still felt that this was an opportunity that you really wanted to take advantage of.
Look, I think with the philosophy at Boschendal, we're really focusing on the awesome terroirs and different cultivars, and we try to match up the cultivars in the different terroirs. So it's an opportunity that couldn't be missed. Stellenbosch, like we said earlier, it's almost that class of Boschendal that we want to marry up with a signature of Stellenbosch. And Stellenbosch Cab has always been a dream to me. A wine that we're going to chat about just now is the Black Angus. I've worked with, it's a non-conventional blend with Ceron Cabernet, but we have worked with some premium cab out of Stellenbosch, and we just saw that these vineyards on those decomposed granite soils is just delivering with those old clone 46, just bring that very pure Cabernet Sauvignon characteristic through. So we had to show it and we had to make it. It's a must. It would have been a sin not to.
And you said that a couple of times today, which shows how fervently you really do believe in this opportunity that you've had. And I think as we try this wine, and it's one of several we're going to try this evening from the Boschendal stable, it is a wine that does two things in terms of the opportunity you have. It brings together not just Cabernet Sauvignon grapes from what is as good a Cabernet Sauvignon stretch of terroir as there is in the world, let alone South Africa, in what we have in Stellenbosch, but also in 2017, a vintage that is just quietly and without too much fuss creeping up on 2015 and saying, you know what, you made a lot of noise, but we might just be a little bit better.
I just think, once again, just so blessed to be able to launch this Cabernet Sauvignon Stellenbosch Cab in the 2017 vintage. 2017, as the rest of the winemakers and probably the world is seeing at the moment, it's a phenomenal vintage. I think it's just something that's going to be even better than 2015. What we see now is that 2017, obviously the season leading up to the picking time, specifically for the later ripening varietals like Cabernet Sauvignon, there was no heat spike. So phenolic ripeness, low pHs, nice acidities, balanced wines, classic, seamless. That's what 2017 actually delivered. So, I couldn't have asked for a better vintage to launch the Stellenbosch Cab with.
Well, you've set a high bar, because gee, you better make sure your next vintage is amazing, because this has got a great response. And don't take that just from me. Look at the guys again. If you were watching our show earlier on today, you'll have heard Dampi Bailey, one of South Africa's winemaking greats, talk about this wine as being a beautiful example of Stellenbosch Cab. Greg Sherwood saying exactly the same thing. And throughout the course of today, we had a lot of media, and I know you're a modest man, and yet even you cannot have avoided just a little bit of pride, a little bit of a smile, in that so many people whose opinion in the wine industry is so meaningful tried this wine for the very first time and said, you know what, this is pretty good stuff.
I must say, I stood up there and I was very proud. All the time I knew in my heart, I knew this is an amazing wine. It's phenomenal, and I wanted to show it out there, and it was quite nice to get some comments from Greg and from Dampy Bailey, and especially if it's the first time, you could see it's like, on their face, you could really see it's a true reflection of what they felt. So
I think it's a wine that's going to get a lot of interest and a lot of excitement, and we're very happy that we've been able to be part of the launch today, as Dan really likes wine. We've got some of your other wine to taste. We're going to do so in a moment. As a segue into that, as a winemaker, you know Boschendal so well. It is your backyard, it is your office, and so you know the grapes, you know the terroir, you know what works at Boschendal. How much of a challenge was it to take grapes from somewhere else? These are coming from the Helderberg. You've bought something in that you don't work with every day. This is the first time you've done exactly this. I'm sure there was an excitement aspect to it, but what about the challenge in dealing with something that was a little bit new, a little bit different?
Dan, to tell you the truth is that we at Boschendal has realized quite a while ago that we don't only acquire grapes from Boschendal itself. So we've been selecting different sites, different terroirs for a while now from different areas. So for instance, we've got the Appalachian series that we're not presenting tonight, which we've acquired a farm. We've got a farm in Elgin that we've specifically, I think we're probably some of the only guys taking out apples to plant grapes there. And we've realized the potential in Stellenbosch, in the Helderberg specifically. That's where that Helderberg area is where we're focusing a lot on the red wines that we're going to taste tonight. So we've been working with that area very closely, and we've done some developments, and we've invested heavily in that area. So to tell you the truth, we've been working with it for quite some time. So it's by working in that area, selecting grapes from that area, not only Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Syrah, Malbec, Petit Verdot, that we've just realized the potential of Cabernet Sauvignon, and we had to bring it out. So that is a awesome red wine area.
Well, it's translated into something quite magical, and a wine that is very drinkable now, and there's a lovely freshness to it, but it's got a long road to go before we try some of the other reds. Just a last word on this cab. There are going to be people watching who haven't tried this before. They'd love to give it a crack. If you're sitting at home now, you're thinking, well, that does look good, but what exactly am I drinking? Give us just a snapshot of what is in this glass for you right now.
For me, at the end of the day, Cabernet Sauvignon, what I love about Cab is that Cab should be true to the cultivar specifically. So this Cabernet Sauvignon reminds me of growing up. I grew up in Stellenbosch. So it's made from a very specific clone 46, on a rootstock 10114. And it just gives you various flavors. There's a nice earthiness that comes through that obviously that's very, very true to Cabernet Sauvignon. Some beautiful cigar box tones, and that is that HB pencil shaving, cedar oak and graphite combination with some beautiful blueberry and blackcurrant flavors. And then that wet tobacco, pencil shavings, cedar oak just gives you that cigar box. So a very complete Cabernet Sauvignon. If I taste this wine, there's no mistake that it's Cabernet Sauvignon. Yes, it's balanced. It's got a beautiful, nice freshness of acidity, low pH. It's going to give this wine longevity to age forever and a day. So this is definitely something to drink now, but trust me, if you put it in your cellar, it's going to age.
Your challenge is hanging on to it, not drinking it immediately. But maybe it's a distraction. You could have a crack at some of the other Boschendal wines in the interim. So I'm going to set aside the rest of my cab, and let's look ahead at some of the other wines. And we have a wine called the Nicholas, which I think is next up. So if you want to pass it over and have a look, I'll grab that while you grab our glasses. So there you go. This is the Boschendal Nicholas. And I think, as is always the case when we get a wine like this, the question is, all right, Nicholas, why Nicholas? Who was Nicholas? Where's that come from?
Well, as you know, there's great heritage. So heritage at Boschendal, Boschendal being the second oldest wine farm in South Africa, next after Groot Constantia. And so Nicholas, like I said, just going back, so it's always nice to sell wine with a bit of a story behind it. So Nicholas Delanoy was one of the founders of Boschendal initially. So it's it's just one of those stories, one of those almost a history that you can take back. So if Boschendal is full of history, and so that's why we decided to use the name Nicholas. I always say Nicholas is my James Bond wine. It's the guy in the suit and the tie. I don't have the tie, but at least I've got the suit on today.
And a bit of a Jason Statham look, so not too far off track.
Yeah, so and that's what Nicholas all about. Once again, it's a story. It's behind the history. It's the heritage. It's classic. It's seamless. It's elegant, and that's what this one is all about. It's the elegance, and this is a non-conventional blend. If I say non-conventional blend, it's all about the Bordeaux varietals here, but Syrah or Shiraz being part of the backbone or part of the almost like the bloodline of Boschendal, doing very well and serving Boschendal quite well. The Shiraz in this wine is always used as a fining agent. If I say fining agent, it's just giving you consistency year in, year out, just softening up the Bordeaux varietals. And this Shiraz that we used in here is partly from Stellenbosch, but there's also a little bit of Swartland in it as well, just softening this wine up and just softening the tannins. But the Bordeaux varietals just keeps it nice and focused and elegant.
Yeah, there's a real tightness to it, and a very dry finish, and a wonderfully elegant wine. And one that it looks like you had a bit of fun making and playing around with something that, as you say, not conventional, but you've come up with a result that you're clearly quite happy with.
Very happy with this one. I think this one should be on all tables. It's for me, it's very close to the Cabernet Sauvignon. If I'm not in style, it's a different style, but it's it delivers. That's the same type of expectation. Once again, a lot of the Bordeaux varietals that we use in this wine comes from the Stellenbosch area, mostly out of the Helderberg region itself. So very happy with it. And once again, it's wines like this that's put my focus on Cabernet Sauvignon. And to say, listen, there's Cab that needs to be put out there as a single cultivar as well.
We've got a few people watching. One of them is Grant Sauls, who was with us earlier today as well. Looking forward to trying the 2017. I really enjoyed the Manumission Cab 2015. Great aromas and well balanced. Grant, I can tell you, owns every single bottle of wine ever produced in South Africa. He's a dedicated wine fan. And Grant, great to have you along. This wine, the tightness to it, the leanness to it, the youth to it. If I'm drinking it right now, and I always love asking this question of winemakers, what are you eating with this?
Cheese.
Cheese, okay.
No, cheese. That's it. Sorry, I'm using my English in self-defense here. So it's not cheese, it's cheese. So yeah, for me, of course, I love my lamb. So I just think that lamb would be an absolutely amazing dish with this. A nice leg of lamb, a nice Sunday roast with family and friends. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. But yeah, nice lamb would go great with this.
Yeah, I think so. Depending, of course, on how you cook it. A lamb vindaloo, maybe not quite so much, but a good roast leg of lamb, perfect. All right, let's set this aside. We are 2 red wines down, 2 from 2 in terms of, gee, I like these. What's number 3 on our list today, Mr. Winemaker?
Well, wine number 3 is the Black Angus.
I know this well.
You know this well. I think we've presented it previously as well. And yeah, this is a wine that I dream about at night, and it's not a nightmare. It's just that if there's one wine that I wouldn't mind being known for, it's Black Angus.
Now this, so I'm an enormously strong person. I go to gym almost as much as Seth Shezzy, who goes to gym 4 times a day. And this is about 12 kilograms, this bottle. Now it's basically a murder weapon in the weighting. It is big, it is weighty, not dissimilar to your Cab bottle. It's got a huge amount of presence to it, and that speaks quite similarly to the wine, doesn't it?
Yes, it's like this Black Angus 2017 vintage. It's in our heritage bottle with the Boschendal Capensis on the front, specially made for Boschendal, old Bordeaux style bottle. As you know, we've got Black Angus cattle on the farm. You had some lunch here today as well, so where we farm with Black Angus cattle. And so for me, what they've done right here, before we get to the wine, I just want to give compliments to marketing and stuff, as everything has been done right. The name Black Angus, the bottle speaks to you, the packaging, it's phenomenal. It's something that you need to, it's got a presence to it before you've opened it up. And then obviously, as you open it up, this wine just speaks to you. Once again, I always say you are what you eat. You were chatting about going to gym. You are what you eat. So the bloodline of this wine is Shiraz. It's all about Stellenbosch Shiraz. It's on a south-facing slope, giving you some beautiful black pepper flavor on the palate. But then we've got some Merlot, some Malbec, and some Petit Verdot just backing up the Syrah. So it's all about the Shiraz. Where Nicholas was all about the Bordeaux varietals, this is all about the Shiraz and the Bordeaux varietals, just keeping this wine together like the old style Boschendal blend. It used to be a Shiraz Cab blend, you know, almost like the estate blend. And this wine is just, it's phenomenal. I love making this wine. I love every single vineyard, life spending time in that vineyard, and then just putting the wine together, but putting the barrels at the end of the day together and blending this. And then after the blend is made up, we age it for a further 4 to 6 months in foudre as well, which is to help this wine to marry up. So
you mentioned the marketing team. I know you've got a wonderful woman called Shirley Van Beek who actually tries every single bottle of wine every single day just to keep an eye on how things unfold. It's great, is Shirley. We've got a number of people watching. Christo Mart saying, so proud of my workplace. Well, rightly so, Christo. It's a terrific spot. And then a question as we drink this wine from Linnell Nyakutikwa. Does the decanter and the wine aerator serve the same purpose? It's always a great question about airing or exposing or decanting wine. That aerator, is it a bit gimmicky? Is it the real deal? Putting wine into a decanter? What's the Jacques approach there?
Well, look, at the end of the day, aeration to a wine, it definitely makes a difference. Because just remember, specifically like a wine like the Black Angus, or any of the wines that we tasted tonight, Black Angus, Cabernet Sauvignon, Nicholas, it's all wines that's made to age. So it's got some beautiful tannins, but you must remember, after we've bottled it, you basically close it up. And what it does by giving it air when you open the wine up, it actually just helps the wine to open up and to release some flavor again. So that's why we often decant. I'm still a firm believer, if you've got some time, decanter is still the best. And just take your glass, for instance, after you've finished it and you nose it, often it smells the best. You want the wine to actually smell like that. So it's always the best to decant, to give it a broad base. And these days, you know, obviously people want something quite instantly. So they use an aerator or a bit of a venturi pulling air into it, but it still releases the flavor. So it does exactly the same. I just sometimes feel it's a little bit more abrasive or aggressive, but if you've got no other choice, it does its purpose very well. But just for the evening, it's always great if you can decant it in a nice decanter, and it just puts
and
that
there's a
extra
romance.
It's a romance. It's like pulling a cork,
classic,
you know. It's
isn't
just,
it?
oh, for sure.
Brilliant.
So, but it does work. That is the answer. Both of them.
There you go, Linnell. Hope that helps you. Johan van Eck, Johan, you look a little bit uncertain based on your comment. Exceptional. I think we know exactly what you think. So, Johan, thank you for that. And then the wonderful Reginald Pecklow heads up wine at Cheetah Plains up in the Sabi Sands. There's a lot of bravery and delicate black fruit on 2017, which is my favorite. The Nicholas, absolutely massive wine from the Giant Winery, 1685. Thank you very much, Reginald. It was lovely to hear from you. And thumbs up there from Linnell, who's happy with that there. So this is our third wine. It's a terrific wine. We do have one more to have a crack at. Once that's done, we do have a few more guests on this evening show. The wonderful Seth Jersey, I mentioned a little earlier, will be joining us. We also have Chipang Molisano, who's been on the show before, one of South Africa's finest young wine writers. And we also have Steve Steinfeld, the Joburg foodie, joining us. But before we get to them, let's get to our fourth and final wine. And what do you have for us, Jacques?
Well, I've got something special. It's our Grand Ceron. I'll just give that bottle to you.
Geez, you don't do small bottles, do you?
We don't. We gym at home, and then we come and gym at the winery again.
All right, this is another hefty one. This is the Grand Ceron. I think this is an appropriate moment, because the moment you say grand, you kind of think this is big, this is strong, it's a huge wine. And yet, certainly in a South African context, we tend to think, well, Shiraz is the slightly bigger, the bolder. Syrah tends to be the slightly more elegant, maybe slightly more modest wine. Where does this sit in terms of your style?
Well, for me, I'm a great believer in Syrah. That's why we say Grand Syrah. It's absolutely the selection of the best Syrah vineyards in South Africa, in Stellenbosch, that we make this Grand Syrah. I'm a great believer in that classic style, elegant, more the Syrah style. I prefer this, even though in a New World country, South Africa, I do like that elegant spice, a little bit of black pepper, softness and fruit, but still nice and focused and tight. So that is my philosophy. It's more Syrah style. If I just in the cellar itself, I prefer 500-liter barrels, untoasted, compared to, for instance, something like Cabernet Sauvignon, where we will often go to 300-liter barrels, first fill, second fill. I like to do second fill, third fill, 500-liter barrels on my Grand Syrah.
Let the fruit speak a bit more.
Let the fruit speak a bit more. I often say Cabernet is like a king, but Syrah is like the Robin Hood. It's king at heart, and it's a phenomenal wine. Once that spirit comes out, and it's got beautiful longevity in this wine, especially if you respect the fruit of the Syrah. So I'm definitely more of a Syrah fan. That is the way that I craft this wine at as well. And it's only 2,500 liters that we make of this wine every year. So it's a selection of a vineyard. In the vineyard, we select a certain pocket that we know quite well by now. After that, we will craft, make the wine. It will be a barrel selection that will be aged in foudre after about 12 months in barrel. It will aged in foudre for another 4 to 6 months before it's bottled, unfiltered.
We've had 4 terrific examples of red wine. And what I love about these is there's definitely a common theme to them. And these are great, strong red wines, but there is an individual imprint on every single one. Headlined, of course, by this new Cabernet Sauvignon that's got so much attention around the wine-making world today. Before we let you go, again, bench press another few bottles before your day is done. Where Boschendal is at the moment, it's a huge property. It's the kind of property where you could almost get lost in the noise of the wine, because you make so much wine, you make so much good wine, and yet you've still managed to retain that sense of individuality when it comes to the different wines. As you go forward, what's your vision as a winemaker to where you'd like to see Boschendal over the next 5 years, with you guiding it gently and pushing it into the kind of space where you're getting the very best out of your terroir?
I think from my side, I would like to stay focused on the terroir, not get lost into anything else except for being focused. You just mentioned it, the wine should speak for itself. I often say you've achieved what you want to make as a winemaker. Once the wine could speak for itself, it says by itself, it's a Syrah, it's a Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's so individual that you can actually pinpoint the specific terroir. So I always want to be true to the roots of being a winemaker, focused on terroir, focused on the right cultivar on the right terroir, that it can speak for itself. So obviously being focused, making small parcels, sometimes bigger parcels as well, and then growing, but still keeping the focus.
Well, it's a focus that's given us some wonderful wine today. It's been a very special day at Boschendal. It's certainly not finished. We've got a couple more guests, but in terms of our time with Jacques, thank you for giving us such a fabulous wine today. Thanks for the time today. We really appreciate it. Keep making great wine, keep having fun with it, and keep that spark, because it's clear that you love what you do, and I think that translates into your wine very clearly.
Dan, thank you very much. I want to say it's been awesome to be on your show. Really, thank you very much, and thanks for the exposure. Thanks for everything that you've done for us as well. And like I said, it was great chatting to you. Thank you very much, and be blessed.
I will indeed. I'm going to hand you these wines as you head off, because we've got a few people to stock up with wine as they join us on the show very shortly. And as we say goodbye to Jacques, so basically, if Jason Statham made wine, he would be Jacques Viljoen here at Boschendal. But we are not ending our time with incredibly suave and elegant people. Just before we meet our next guest, a few people, Johan van Eyck, Rotondo and expressed at its best. Well, it certainly is. Grant Sauls, I have to try the Grand Syrah. It sounds amazing. Well, it is. I can tell you that. Very family. Wim Braak, love the Grand Syrah. Fantastic wine. One of the best I've tasted in the last year. And Wilhelmine Groblo is with us a little earlier on today, expounding on the delights of venison with wine. My order is done. Cannot wait. Bride tonight. And we're enjoying Boschendal Shiraz 2018. An excellent choice. Right. So we've had Jacques on the show. We still have a couple of other guests. Steve Steinfeld will be joining us. Chpang Molisano will join us. But now we have somebody who is wearing his 9th outfit of the day. He is a former GQ best dressed. He is impossibly suave. He's almost too good looking to be on a wine show, but we'll rope him in nonetheless. He's a good friend of mine, Mr. Seth Shezi.
How are you?
Welcome.
This feels like an honor. I have to remember to take a selfie after this.
Well, you must indeed.
People need to know that I've made it.
and people will be watching and they're probably, okay, well, we know Seth Shezi. He's this ridiculously good-looking, impossibly well-dressed guy who's an artist and a curator and a designer. But what is he doing on a wine show? And probably what people don't know is just how much of an interest you have in the world of wine.
Indeed. Yeah. I've thought of so many things I could have said, but then I realized that we have an audience. I'm not just talking to you. I'm a huge lover of wine, and also especially like this area, like the Stellenbosch Franschhoek area. I moved to Cape Town about 16 years ago, knew nothing about wine.
At the age of 5.
You're kind. No one from Durban knows anything about wine. So when I moved here to study, I was just like a regular person. I was like, cool, what's the fuss with, the winelands? Came here, started experiencing a little bit. And at first, I think I was like more drawn to the food because I love food. And so then a couple of years later, I was writing about food. And you can't necessarily eat food properly without appreciating it with wine. And that just blew my mind wide open when I basically started immersing myself into it. And now I call myself somewhat of like a wannabe connoisseur.
I don't think want to be at all, because we've had a number of conversations about wine, and it's clearly a space that you know a fair bit about, that you have a great deal of enjoyment about, and it's what I love
consuming
about
it helps.
Well, you do that with great dedication.
Exactly.
And just the art of drinking it, it's very simple. Just have a glass of wine, and that could be the be all and end all. But you go beyond that, because you love, I know from our conversations, the stories about wine. You love the history about wine, and there is a romance to it. And it's very easy for people like you and I who talk a lot for a living to overstate it, but there really is something about wine that it brings people together, and it gives you so much to talk about.
And it's something that you can never sort of highlight enough, because I think even for me now, I think my world is surrounded by people who appreciate enough and understand the space that wine occupies. But every time you put a winemaker there, everyone keeps quiet. Why? Because everyone is romanticized. They want the story. They want to know that the thing that they're consuming, sure, it leads to fat times and some dancing on tabletops maybe sometimes, but they need to know that it was created with authenticity, with like a purpose, and also it comes with this richness. And then look at where we are now, and I can't imagine what stories like Boschendal, for instance, carries. And you look at what we're drinking right now. Again, if you were to break this down, and like I was like, eavesdropping on what you and Jacques were talking about, literally, I could hear him talk nonstop about the same variety of wine that I've already drunk many times, but each time the story feels different. And it's the same thing when you take a sip as well. Everything feels different, and I think that culture is something worth continuing, which is why I think I love what you do as well here.
Our wine stories all tend to begin on a fairly similar note. There was a wine, there was a moment, there was something that caught us and said, you know what? I like this space. I'd like to explore more. Is that the same for you? Was there a wine? Was there an estate? Was there an experience that sparked that magic for you?
I'm going to sound either very old or like I had a really poor palate when I started. But
probably very old.
But I think it was, and not that I drink it much now, but I think it was a Boschendal Chardonnay. But a part of me wants, I wish someone was here to verify this, but I feel like a part of me was like, it was like a Chardonnay Pinot Noir.
Okay, a little bit of pink to it.
Yeah, it was like a style that was really popular at Varsity. So I was just, exiting Varsity, and that was what like you would bring.
That was the 1980s.
If you were bougie enough, when you're going to a picnic or Kirstenbosch, you brought that. People were like, oh, cool, he knows something. He brought a heavy bottle, So if it came from a nice bottle and maybe even had like, a nice little seal on it, people would care. And I remember Boschendal was one of those wines that I remember drinking at the time and thinking, yeah, I think I've made it. I didn't know it was just like barely scraping the surface.
Now, we had a conversation earlier on today when we did the live show.
Yeah.
Some of you might have watched it a little earlier on today, where we had in conversation Maps Papanyane and we had Cameron van der Berg. Now, between them, they've got 0.06% body fat. They're hugely annoying because they eat vast amounts, they drink vast amounts, and they still look like
As
you.
we saw in that photo.
Indeed, as opposed to like me. And you're clearly the same.
I just tore my pants today, so clearly I'm getting on as well. So I should stop eating.
But I think it's important point to make that you can have wine
Yes.
as part of your lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't mean you're going to end up looking like somebody who's set up for a wrestling contract on the front row of a rugby field. It can be part of a great lifestyle.
No, completely. I think also, if you do it as part of a lifestyle, you don't have to be getting hammered on it. You can just do it for the nuance and the culture that lives behind it. I mean, for me, I look okay, I guess, and I pretty much drink, on a daily basis. Why? Because you can never taste all the wines that are available in the world, and each one will tell a different story. And we're lucky in South Africa that we have so many different regions. And I think, again, like earlier we were talking, I was like being educated, I think by Jacques, is that like the Boschendal sort of like variety of wines, they don't all have to come from their state. So like they will pick from the best area for the appellation. And I was just like, that's pretty cool, because now whatever you put in the bottle is the best thing or the best grape that you've sourced from the best place to make sure that you create or craft the most beautiful thing for that terroir.
And we've had many of them today. The Cab Sauv we've launched today being a great example. What are you drinking now, and why do you enjoy it?
Grand Ceron,
Ceron?
which, I mean, I think actually up until today when we launched the Cab, this used to be my favorite. It's like a beautiful, rich wine, but it doesn't actually whack you with like tannins. It's got great body and like good, like sort of spicy notes. So I've always loved this, but today I feel like now it has some competition after the Cab. What do you think of it?
I love it, and but the beauty for wine for me is that there is so much wine that is. It speaks different languages. It talks to you at different times. Right now we're back end of autumn, late evening. A big red wine tastes perfect.
Yeah, where's the fireplace? Someone, come on! Like, we thought we were prepped. Yeah, yeah. No, this would be perfect. Like, I mean, it's very choice of word, autumnal. Like in the fashion space, that's the word at the moment.
Oh,
so
well, you're a fashionista. I shall listen to you. Very
style
autumnal.
icon.
There we go.
Get it right.
Before we let you head off, because I know there's a fireplace waiting for you,
Yes.
let's just talk a little bit about Sechezi, or as Wellington Muromba from the some Black Cellar Club says, great to see you, said Sitembele, Chezi.
Yes.
And if you're watching this internationally, Sitembele, if you don't know, Sitembele means to drink Chardonnay out the bottle in public. That's what Sitembele means. It's a wonderful heady word. Says you've got this extraordinary career. You have so much funding, so much stuff in great spaces. Your art is getting a lot of interest and attention at the moment.
It surprises me every day, but yeah, it's great.
You're not the only one. No, it is fantastic. Where is Sechezi now? Where is Sechezi going?
He's at a fantastic place. I think, for someone who is an entrepreneur, I've finally come to a point where I no longer have to wrestle the demons in my head that are telling me I'm not good enough to do stuff. And I think that's one of the things that I find with lots of like independent entrepreneurs. It's like you struggle so much to talk yourself out of like big deals and doing great things. And one day you wake up and you're like, actually, maybe I do deserve all this stuff. And then let me just go for it. And I wear so many different hats that it's something that I do to myself, but I think I do for myself as well. So like, I have to write, I have to create art, I have to do, fashion stuff, but, I do content creation as well. I do brand consultation as well. And all these things can drive you mad. And they do. But also, if I didn't and I just stuck to one thing, I'd be bored out of my mind. And so today, in my life right now, I wake up every day excited. I have no idea what my day looks like until Alessio tells me, okay, these are the things you have to do. And then I panic and I run into it, but the adrenaline keeps me going.
And one of the great things about what you do is every single engagement is best swept down with a glass of wine.
Amen to that. I mean, I will do that over and over.
So, Chezi, it's always a pleasure spending time with
Great
you.
talking
Thank
to
you
you.
very much. And
Wait, do you
I
have
think
time to steal a selfie with
we
me?
did live on air. We've never had a live on air selfie
Right?
on Dan Really Likes Wine. So there we go.
I'm quite inventive. I think.
I've never seen an iPhone 2 before. So there we go. This is Chezi. Oh, fantastic.
Well, people won't believe this is live. We should do it from the other way around.
All right.
I'm just getting really precious time right now. And
there we go.
It now is a video. Perfect. Cheers.
Ted,
Good,
thank you so
Great
much.
chatting
There
to
we
you.
go. So Chezzy, great South African designer, a great South African fashion presence, somebody who has a rather strong fondness for a good glass of wine, which leads rather nicely into my next guest. And you will recognize her because she is, if not a regular, because we just can't afford her regularly, but we get her on whenever we can. She is one of South Africa's top wine writers, one of South Africa's top wine personalities, and she knows her way around a glass of wine rather well. Jabang Molisana, come and join me. Come and charge in. She's busy trying to take selfies as well. What is it with you millennials?
I'm
and all of you?
tweeting.
Are you tweeting?
And you're on Facebook.
You're live tweeting on the
This
show.
is incredible.
Welcome. It's
The
nice
only
to
thing
see
we
you.
need is a TikTok.
I am far too old to be on TikTok. It cannot happen.
You say that now, Dan.
No.
You say that.
I think my mother's on TikTok, which is slightly worrying.
Hi, everybody.
Well, welcome. It's so good to have you back on the show.
I'm so blessed to be back. You know, it means you really like me.
Well, I do, but I think you know that, and I like you for many reasons. You're a wonderful person, but you're also a great voice on the world of wine. And you bring
Okay.
a wonderful eye to it.
Please record this. He's saying nice things.
What are you made of today? You've had a chance to taste this new Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon.
Wow.
You've got an opinion that makes winemakers sit up and listen. Have you liked it?
Dan, so you said two things. The first thing you asked me was, what did I think of today? And the second question you asked me is, what did I think of the wine? So what I thought was, this is a bold choice. They could have picked any appellation, they could have picked any terroir, and they chose Stellenbosch. And I thought that was very brave, because there are already so many exquisite Cabernet Sauvignons from Stellenbosch. It's already a region that's renowned for that. So it takes a lot of guts to say, well, here's our version of that. So I really respect their ability to take on that. And then secondly, we're speaking about Cabernet Sauvignon, which is not only the king of grapes, it's the grape of kings. And I thought it's so, again, brave to say, well, this is my version of that. To finally taste the wine after seeing you guys tweet about
There was
it.
a lot of build-up, wasn't there?
Yes, you built up a little anticipation. So to finally taste the wine was a bit of a surprise. What I particularly enjoyed about it was it's the kind of king of grapes, it's the kind of Cabernet that you will enjoy for quite some time. So the person I was sitting across the table from, Fred Hart, had said that for him, this is the kind of wine you buy to celebrate your child's birth. Because in 5 to 10 years, when you're celebrating that birthday, this is the wine that you bring out and say, "Here, my child, this wine was made the year you were born."
That's a big endorsement.
It was exquisite. It was a very clever thing to say, because this is the kind of wine that I think it needed that kind of appreciation.
And it's clearly been appreciated by you in the greater scope of, and you said already, we have so much great Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon, so it's taking on a fairly well-established space, but it seems to, on first glance, it's still a very young wine, to have taken it on and fronted up.
Not only to take it on, I think it speaks for itself. So we had it with, the most delicious ravioli, also paired with a beetroot dish. So I have a lot of friends who don't eat meat, and I've been asking myself for quite some time, so what sort of food do you pair with really good wine when you don't eat meat? Obviously, we had the incredible steak, because we are in Black Angus country. Obviously, we had it with exquisite steak. But I also thought this is, as you said, the kind of wine where you'll open up a bottle next to the fire, really think about your life choices and truly enjoy. But, more than anything, as you said, it's still a young wine. I thought this is the kind of wine in 5 to 10 years, I'm sure all of those cigar box characters will really start lifting right out of the glass. I'm sure all of that dark fruit will really start swirling with those beetroot flavors, if that's what you're going to be making. All those rich ravioli fats that we had. Really, really, really rich, fatty dish needs a really, really buxom wine. And it was a true treasure. It was.
That's a very great endorsement to get, and I know Jacques will be very happy. I know a lot of people.
I hope so.
I know a lot of people hope to see you
Yeah.
on. I see Linnell Nyakutsiko saying hi, Jepang.
Hi, Lenore. How you doing? What's good? What's popping?
Great to have you on there. And Reginald Peckler up at Cheetah Plains.
Oh.
Nice to see you again.
Hi,
Check him
Reginald.
out. So,
Nice
a
to
wine
see you.
geek.
Thanks for tuning in.
And Reggie's a proper wine geek. He really is. Loves his wine. And so,
Wow.
so we've got.
Dan, you're quite famous. Look at all these people.
I know they're mostly my relatives. They're all tuning in very happily, and
Hi, Cullen's cousin Lenore.
and they're all
Oh,
celebrating
Wellington
with us.
is, yeah. Hi, Wellington.
Wellington is. He was
Cheers.
chatting to Seth a little earlier in his seventh Mr. Price seat of the day, all celebrating this. And if we look slightly more broadly, it's been a terrific day of celebrating one specific wine. It's also been a great day about just celebrating South African wine generally, and the fact that after a tough year, and you'll know as a wine writer just how tough it's been for the industry, just as everyone, and not just the makers, the wine writers as well.
Yeah.
We are starting to a little bit light the end of the tunnel, a little bit of chance to actually put on the wine dancing shoes, so to speak, and celebrate the world that we're in.
You know, Dan, I also think this is the kind of year that gives you the opportunity to sit at home. And that's not a bad thing. You know, I'm from Johannesburg as you are. As something I took for granted was the fact that 70% of South Africa's wine is sold in Johannesburg. And what this tells me is that these are number one
Mostly
hardworking.
bought by my wife.
Well, she's doing very well. This tells me two things. The first thing, these are very hardworking people. So they spend all day at work and they want to come home to something beautiful that they've savored and saved and labored for. Number two, our hospitality industry, which has also suffered, is people that really know what they're doing. And they go out and they want to have a wonderful time. And so being in Joburg over the past few months, I've realized that people have the most incredible gems in their cellars. You know, so if you buy, some of this wine, we tasted the Appellation Series Chardonnay today, and we've been tasting fantastic Algan Chardonnay. If you buy some of this wine, you put it away. Hi, Sir Algan Chardonnay. If you buy some of this wine, you put it away on a beautiful summer day, wherever you are in the world, not just Joburg, wherever you are in the world, you have a piece of that world. And that's what I appreciated about the Stellenbosch Cabernet. In Johannesburg, you smell of this and you think to yourself exactly what Jacques was saying. You smell this part of the world with all these beautiful mountains that we're so blessed to behold in Stellenbosch, those rich soils, the labor. I've seen the most incredibly hardworking people. I was speaking earlier at the amount of work it takes on a farm. I know that he's saying it's low intervention, but I'm seeing people wake up at the crack of dawn, and I imagine in harvest season they wake up even earlier. They pick these grapes with love and compassion. They cellar them, they put them away. They think very carefully about how they are going to fortify it, how they are going to make it something that you will treasure. And when you have it, you have a little piece of their hearts. And that's also something that Jacques said earlier that I really thought. You truly do have a piece of their mind that they thought, we want to express this part of Stellenbosch, and you have a piece of their heart. This is something that no matter where in the world you are, we spoke to, I know you guys spoke to a truly famous person in London earlier. If you're in Australia or if you're in New Zealand, who are renowned for Cabernet, if you're down here in Franschhoek, if you're up in Stellenbosch, you have a piece of that world.
You do indeed. Just one correction on Jacques, though, the winemaker. He only gets up at 10 in the morning. He has a braai, drifts in, does an hour of work, goes and has lunch. That's a great job being a winemaker.
We're the subtitles, not true.
Before we let you head off and finish some wine, what's in your glass and what are you enjoying about it?
So I asked for the Cabernet again.
All right. You liked it?
I did like it, but also, it's very different. As I said to you earlier, it's very different tasting it with food, tasting it on its own.
Sure.
And now that the sun is setting, which is a beautiful opportunity to enjoy a glass of wine, now that the sun is setting, you're getting a different energy, a different mood. So when I swirled it in my glass as I was sitting there, I got gorgeous dark fruit coming from it. I got a little bit of that cigar box. I got a little bit of all of those, because it's the child of Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. Got a little bit of those green characters that are so rare. And then I tasted it, and because it's still quite young, it's still quite soft in the mouth. So it doesn't have that hectic pull, but it's got such good acid on it that it does have the opportunity to sit for quite some time. So this is a wine that will age. Yeah, it's handsome. It's stately. Yeah.
And I think that is a perfect note on which to
Well,
wrap
cheers.
celebrations. Punk, thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having me again.
It's a great
Nice to
pleasure.
be in Franschhoek as opposed to Katlong. Cheers.
So there we go. One of South Africa's top wine riders. Punk, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know you've got some more horse riding to do, so I'll let you get back to your steeds.
I got to see a man about a horse.
So there we go.
Thank you.
Punk, thank you very
Thanks
much.
so much, Dan. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
There we go. A very special guest on Dan Really Likes Wine. I see Denzel Jonathan Swartz saying hello. Denzel, lovely to have you
Hi,
on.
Denzel.
There goes your bag. And Linnell back again in the beautiful energies from all the people who work together. Bottled in the bottle. Cheers. Thank you, Linnell. Lovely way of summing it up. Right. One last guest before we wrap it up and say goodbye. And we had him on a little earlier on today. He's dressed in trademark black and looking as sleek and elegant as ever. Am I calling you the Joburg foodie or the Cape Town foodie? Because I'm not sure where you live anymore.
Let's maybe
Stephen.
just go with the foodie.
The foodie, the global
we'll just go with
foodie,
that, yeah.
the cosmic foodie. Look, it's been a terrific day, and I love chatting to you about food and wine because we share a passion
Likewise,
thereof, and you've got a very honest appraisal. If you don't like something, you're absolutely certain to say that. And yet, when I chatted to you earlier, we
Yes.
spoke about this wine, this cab that we launched today. It got your thumbs up, didn't it?
Oh, most definitely. I think it is a beautiful example of Stellenbosch as a cab region, but it has a finesse and a elegance that I think is starting to become our style, but hasn't always been in the past. You know, we're generally used to those really rich, deep, juicy, jammy, perhaps overly extracted cabs, whereas this one really was just wonderfully elegant. It had a gentleness to it, which I really enjoy in wine.
And that's not to completely throw out the window that style, maybe not the over extracted,
No, yeah, of course.
but that big style of cab. And it speaks to, I think, a lot of our varietals at the moment, and even Cabernet Sauvignon are falling into that space whereby different producers, different winemakers, different terroir were able to take a particular varietal and give it such different forms of expression.
Most definitely. And it is something, I think it's what happens when wine evolves and when a region or country starts growing its wine culture. And I think, you know, stylistically, trends come and go. But I think South Africa is in a fantastic place where we are finding how our varietals are showing best and how they're best made. And yeah, I think the Stellenbosch cab is a fantastic example of that, of what beautiful, what words am I looking for? What beautiful types of cab can be made, and that it doesn't always have to be those huge, big, in-your-face cabs. It can be something slightly more subtle, something more elegant. And yeah, as I said, that's kind of where I'm drawn to at the moment when it does come to the heavier reds.
Let's take that sense of versatility and shift it over to the food world, which
Yes.
you are celebrated across the country. Not always. There are one or two chefs who still don't speak to you, and rightly so, where we're able to take a Cabernet Sauvignon. And there's often that sense of Cabernet Sauvignon. We spoke about this with a couple of people now and earlier on the show. All right, it's a Cabernet Sauvignon. It's got to be a big ribeye steak. It's got to be something that speaks to red meat, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's not, because that versatility is enormous for you as somebody for whom food is as important as wine in terms of what you do, what you write about.
Yeah.
This is a wine that's going to speak to a whole range of dishes.
Most definitely. And I'm a firm believer that you should drink what you want and drink what you like. Because even if a pairing is perfect and you're not a fan of that wine, you're not going to enjoy the pairing. It's just kind of as simple
Stephen
as that.
Sauvignon Blanc, for example.
I have been drinking a lot of Sauvignon Blanc
No,
lately.
you haven't.
Have you know?
That is a complete lie. You do-
I think it's for another episode of Dan Really Likes Wine. But yeah, we should have a Sauvignon Blanc Instagram chat.
But it is great to be able to. I look at this, for instance, and Chipang was saying something similar. There's a real elegance to this Cabernet Sauvignon. I think of something like, say, a freshly seared tuna steak, where
I was going to the exact same place.
Beautiful
A
combination.
beautiful, fattier fish. Even salmon, I think, would go really well. Tuna was my first kind of point of call. And again, it's like, you start breaking those conventions that we've held for so long of, no, it's fish, it must be white wine. And it's kind of where we now can be at the point, well, it's fish, but what type of fish is it? And you can really have fun when pairing different types of wine with, different types of fish. I think langoustine could go quite incredibly with the cab. It's got enough, of its own flavor to stand up to it. And the delicateness of the cab would complement it wonderfully. So yeah, I think it's time that we relook convention, perhaps.
And there's also that annoyance, and I think we've spoken about this before, where you pick up a bottle of wine in a supermarket, and it's not to knock the wineries, the wine estates, the wine brands. They're trying to sell the wine, but you see on the back of the wine, goes well with lamb. Well, is that a lamb vindaloo? Is it a Greek lamb? Is it a lamb korma?
Because everything makes such a difference, and the spices play a huge role. Like, I've actually got the Black Angus here, but
and a great glass it is.
It is a fantastic glass, but obviously you've got a lot more spice notes coming through here than you would in the cab. And how does that play with different spices? And I do agree with you when you say it goes plays well with lamb. It's kind of like saying, "Have you met Dan?" And then everyone goes, "Which Dan?"
There's only one.
There's only one.
There's only one.
Yeah.
No, it is terribly generic, and you understand where it's coming from, but it doesn't do justice to the wine.
Yeah.
That wine you've got now, we've talked a lot about the cab today.
Yes.
Jacques is making some terrific wine across the board, and that Black Angus, it's one of those big, strong-shouldered back row rugby players of a wine.
Completely.
And as we come into winter, this and a fire, it doesn't get much better, does it?
Absolutely not. And I know we've had a few chats over the last few weeks about sense of place and wines that define a certain space, or with the element how it encapsulated that. And the Black Angus, I think, is very much a Boschendal farm wine. It's obviously named after the Black Angus, for which they're known, the famous bloodline of cows that they breed. But I think just as a wine that's a dominant blend, it tastes like almost what you'd expect Boschendal to be if it was a wine. I think it's a fantastic glass of wine to enjoy as things get colder.
Before we wrap up and say goodbye to you from what's been a very special day at Boschendal, 2 questions for you, Mr. Foodie, of geographical specification unknown. If I'm asking you the Black Angus and the cab that we launched today, give me a dish, one I might not expect, but one which, from your vast experience of eating all over the place and eating some quite different stuff, what's something we might not expect to go with the Black Angus, something we might not expect to go with the 2017 Stellenbosch cab?
Always putting me on the spot, but let me see what I can do.
So, Stephen.
So, something unexpected for the Black Angus. I do think you need to go for meat here. I think venison could go really well with that, perhaps. Again, depends how you do it, but something like a Springbok steak, like our good friend David Higgs makes over at Marble.
Acquaintance.
Wonderfully.
Acquaintance.
Sorry.
Friends is a strong word.
And if we had to look at the cab, I think maybe some Japanese styled tuna, some seared tuna. I think some soy sauce will complement it quite well. You've got that salinity there, and maybe a bit of definitely. I'm definitely going tuna, soy sauce, those Asian flavors. Maybe another one of your acquaintances, Peter Templehoff, perhaps would cook up at Fame. So I thought those would be my 2 picks.
All right, 2 great picks. Stephen, thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate the time.
Always a pleasure.
Good to have you down here at Boschendal.
Wonderful to be here.
So that is the sort of Joburg, kind of Cape Town, maybe everybody else foodie, who wraps up our show on Dan Really Likes Wine this evening. It's been a really special day down at Boschendal. We got to launch the brand new Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon. Jacques Fillion making something quite special, and now chatting to some great friends in the wine industry. Seth Sharzy joining us, and there we go. We've got Chipang and Seth jumping in for a final cheers of the night before we say goodbye as the sun sets down over one of South Africa's more arresting estates. Lovely day, some lovely wine, and not just a great endorsement of the world of Boschendal, but also a firm reminder of both the beauty and the quality of wine that South Africa is able to produce. It is wine that is available across the country, and especially at Pick n Pay. If you're not a member of the Pick n Pay Wine Club, then don't forget to join. It's very simple. Send that smart shopper number of yours to 36775 by SMS. And remember that as a member of the Smart Shopper Club, it's 3 times the points. It's 20% off 10 wines each month, and a whole pile of great competitions, including this month's one, which gives you the chance to win over 6,000 Rand worth of wine from Warwick. And that is running through the course of the month. Just buy 1 bottle and you are in the competition. So a big thank you to all of you for watching, for joining us. Thank you to Shirley and the team at Boschendal for looking after us so well today. Jacques and his team for making great wine. We've had great wine, great food, and great guests. Keep drinking and supporting South African wine. Enjoy the 2017 Boschendal Stellenbosch Cab if you get a chance. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you back live on Monday night with something very special from the new Cape and Fine Wine Rare Auction. We'll see you then, plus Glenn Carlo. Goodbye.